I'm riding into Fredericksburg, Texas this morning. Fredericksburg is about 60 miles north of San Antonio. It's an interesting little town. A lot of weekend tourists or day trips from San Antonio. But I'm going up here to check on my 1968 Triumph Bonneville that we're restoring. We've been working on this project for about a year. When I was a kid, the Triumph Bonneville was always, for me, the ultimate motorcycle. There was just something about that motorcycle that really did appeal to me. And for all these years, I've kind of wanted one. And then, of course, the new Triumphs came out, and they did maintain some of the basic design. But they just didn't have the appeal of that original Bonneville. And the 1968 was kind of the one to have. So I got this idea about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, that maybe I could find an old one and restore it. And I was riding down the road one day down Interstate 10 coming into San Antonio, and there was a Triumph dealership off to the side of the road. And for some reason I just decided, oh, I'm going to pull in there and just take a look at some of these bikes. While I was in there talking to the salesperson, I asked him about a 68. And he said he knew a guy who had one that he wanted to sell. I actually got on the phone and said, they asked him if he still had the bike, and the guy said yes, he did. They lived in Kerrville, so a couple of days later we drove out to Kerrville to take a look at the bike. And this guy had this wonderful little shop. He had an old-fashioned filling station that he had turned into a workshop. He even had a Vincent Black Shadow restored, among other things. But he had this old beat-up Triumph sitting over there. It was intact. It wasn't a basket case, but it wasn't pretty. And it did run, though. And so I decided to buy it. And we got it home, and it didn't run very well at all. I did ride it around the neighborhood a little bit, but I didn't want to ride it too much because, first of all, the controls are reversed. You shift with your right foot, you brake with your left, and that makes it a little bit dangerous to break those habits. So I started the project about a year and a half ago, and my first step was to completely dismantle the bike. And this is what I did. Took the bike apart, literally every nut, bolt, and washer, including the engine. Got the frame down to nothing. Took it and had it powder coated. Started ordering parts, and we've been working on it for about a year and a half now, very slowly. And now I've got it over with a guy here in Fredericksburg named Billy Burdett, who's a pretty well-known restorer. Matter of fact, I think Billy's an artist. I've seen him take rusted hulks with a basket full of parts and bring that motorcycle back to life in a beautiful way. So I shipped the tanks off to a famous painter in Boston, Massachusetts. Had the tanks and the side panels painted back to the original Bonneville colors, and supposedly he had the original paint, and he had an original 68 Bonneville tank that he said had never seen the sunlight, so he sort of used that as his benchmark to get the color right. And when I finally got it back, it was beautiful, and I just can't wait to see it on the bike. So I'm going here to take a look at it, see how we're doing. We had a few setbacks along the way. Billy's wife had a little bout with cancer, and as he said, he lost his inspiration for a while. Which was okay with me, not that his wife had cancer, but it was okay for me to stop work on the bike because about that time I lost my job. So this is not a inexpensive little project, so I was happy to put it on hold for a while. So we'll see if we can get some photos of it. So here we are, we're coming up to Billy's shop. Always an interesting experience to visit with Billy. So here we are at Billy's place.
Hey Pat!
There he is, right there.
Did you ride up here by yourself?
Yeah, all by myself. All by myself. Just to see you. All right.
Well, hell, come on in, man. Take a look.
You can see this is Billy's shop. He keeps things nice and neat and tidy, as you can see.
Yeah.
He's also a photographer and a performer.
Yeah. I don't know how good at any of it, but I should have cleaned it up a little bit before you came, Pat.
No, this is the way it always looks.
This is how it is. This is how it looks.
I'd be worried if it was all clean.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is it. We're getting there. Transmission's in, which was a big step. So now we can start adding body parts. We've got the transmission in. We can put that other engine mount on over here and start building it up on top of that. Every fastener has been replaced or restored. Don't trip. But I polished this all. I wasn't real happy with the stuff we got back from Prestige.
Yeah, I didn't think that they did a very good job on that either.
So I buffed this out. I spent most of the morning on this, cleaning this up. I'll touch it up again, and I've got all oil and stuff all over it again. But I got it pretty good. It was like scratches and stuff in it. Those pits we're not going to get out. You know, that's just part of it. You know, the characteristics of old aluminum. You know. You can sand that down, and but it's I kind of like them in there because it's, and that'll sit like so, and then this part right here covers up. This is your oil feed right here. There's an oil feed pipe that comes out of here, which feeds your oil pump. As all this spins, the oil pump, this pumps the oil up and down. It's creates suction in here, and then that forces oil all through here, all around. There's like a port on this outer cover that goes from here to here, that the oil runs from here over to this side, and it feeds all of this stuff up here. So all this is all being oiled internally from this pump, and then this oil feed here, one of them goes to up here to feed the top end, and that attaches, there's an oil feed pipe that attaches to this. I have to replace these, either the old ones that are on here. But all the rest of that, the motor's done, you know. So I'll need to put the, when I put that outer cover on, I'll put the electronic ignition in that first before I put the cover on, and then we'll seal all this up and it'll be, you know, be ready to go. So this is all timed. I mean, the gears are all timed correctly, and so pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. So you can. I'm going to turn this motor over for you just so you can see what's happening here. But this has been rebuilt from the bottom all the way up. I mean, there's not one part in here that wasn't replaced or restored, you know. All the bearings, all the seals, you know, the crankshaft was all machined, you know. New main bearings were put in on the crankshaft and from between the crankshaft and the rods. I mean, it's like this is like a brand new motorcycle, really, in, you know, a more advanced stage of fitness than they were when they came from the factory, you know, because they didn't, you know, they didn't take the pains that, you know, an individual would take when putting one of these things back together. So it's kind of, you actually have something that's better than it was when it was new.
I'm reading this book now called Jupiter's Travels. Have you ever read that? It's about this guy who rode an old Triumph all the way across the world. I mean, the stuff that he put that bike through.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Is just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he had that bike held together by wire in some places.
Yeah, that's how they were. I mean, that's how people rode. They rode them for them. They didn't ride for sport. They rode because they had to. That was their transportation. And they were made to be, you know, repaired on the side of the road, and, you know, like all that old Whitworth thread and stuff that's in them that's real coarse. You know, why the hell would they do that? Well, they did it because when this motor was developed in like 1938, they, you know, the British were an imperialist society, so they were all over. They were in the desert, they were in Saudi Arabia, they were, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, but, you know, they were in the desert. So these bikes were made to run in, you know, horrible conditions, you know, with salt, sand, and, you know, where they had to take bike motors apart, you know, so that if they had fine threads, it would be like they couldn't, you know, so they had all these real coarse, everything was done the machining was coarse, and it was done that way as a, you know, as a means to, you know, make the bike operational in crappy conditions. So they'll run, you know, they'll run through anything. So here we're turning over the motor now. If you want to come over here and watch, see, here's your valves opening and closing. That's, you know, the push rods are moving up, and, you know, and the cams are down here. This is your intake cam, that's your exhaust cam.
Mm-hmm.
So there, as this is, and all this stuff's timed, you know, it has to be timed a certain way, and there's marks on here that I use to line up all this stuff. So as that turns over, then see, this is how your oil pump functions. Those pistons come up, and this is on, there's a cam on here that rolls that up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as that does that, that forces oil out through these holes. And then you can hear it sucking.
Yeah.
And then there's a port that runs from here over to here that's on this outer cover that gets the oil up into here. And here's your oil pressure release valve that goes in over here. So if you get too much oil pressure, that pops out so it doesn't, you know, blow all your seals and stuff. So it's pretty cool the way they did it. It's, you know, by today's standards, it's crude, but it's functional.
Well, I'm leaving Fredericksburg now. Had a nice visit with Billy Burdett, and I saw the Triumph, and it's making good progress. And Billy said I'll probably be riding it this summer. That'll be a real thrill. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing this little project, and if you have any comments, please leave it in the comment section. I always like that, and I like to respond. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. That's always great feedback. Bye for now.